Good morning, my good family of Flint, Michigan. Again, this is another installment. Again, I'm your host, Hubert Naeem Roberts, and pronoun unacceptable. Today, and I would like to somewhat back up a little bit. I was a little under the weather, so I miss you guys. There was a few things going on in my family. Let alone what's going on every day that we're dealing with in our society. But, I do want to just say thank you to this wonderful man that's sitting across from me, my technician. He continued to be a tremendous warrior for Black Lives Matter Flint. And a lot of times we don't take the time to give each other's accolades or flowers while we're alive. And I think really critical with men, we have a problem sometimes showing respect and honor to one another. So I really want to just, in his face and in his presence, want to tell him how much I love him and I appreciate for all the hard work that he has been committed to doing. And again, people don't realize behind the scenes, what's going on in any organization when you are committed. When you are truly committed, a lot of times you're working below a budget. You can't even think about a budget because it's in your heart, it's in your DNA. Many times when we look at our ancestors, you could go back to Robert Small or Fannie Lou Hamer or SCLC or the Panthers or Marcus Garvey, and the list go on and on and on as far as what they had in their heart, what was in their heart and in their thinking. And in their makeup, because they were connected to thousands of years of individuals that believed in that they had a responsibility for humanity. Not that they, felt that they were above anyone, but they were dignified enough to understand that they were a man or a woman and should be treated as such. And nobody had the right to tell them that they were not. That they were beneath, someone else. They believed in their internal being that they had a purpose and a responsibility to our ancestors and to our lives today. So I just want to, Mitch, I just want to thank you, for all the hard work, along with Shatara, beautiful secretary that we have here, and I call her the chairman. She's our number 2, but I call her the chairman, You have those people in those positions, and then I need to just say a little bit about our wonderful president, Mr. Dewan Robertson, again, working hard to lift him up, because he's a young man and been in the struggle on many levels. To be a young man, to be dedicated at his level with 2 children, I have just tremendous respect for him. And so I just wanted to always say some things that are important to our community. And then I do want to reach out to and say something about Al, a photographer, a video person. Definitely have appreciated everything that he's done in the past. And I just always want to make sure that when we are engaging in one another, that we're engaging in a level that is appropriate and responsible. Again, I just want to tell you guys, I missed you guys. I'm glad to be back. We got the fall coming up. We're getting ready to get engaged, and the weather is going to start turning cold. And so again, that doesn't mean that we turn cold. That means we still got to be hot. With some things we got to do in our community locally. Always remember power. Real power is local power. We are engaging in some things as far as with the city council, getting some things or standing, getting and backing some new blood that's going to be coming on board and holding them responsible. Even the leadership of this community has been very dysfunctional, not just now, but, for years, in many aspects. When you look about what's going on downtown with the DDA and the Community Foundation, and and how beautiful downtown is and the kind of money has been invested, just like the Capitol Theater, $35 million in the building by itself, and we got schools that have no air conditioning. You know, you think about what the priorities are in this community, and they definitely are not geared toward black or brown people. I just want to continue to, you know, encourage you guys. This is community conversation, and we want to talk about a number of things. Anything from dealing with relationships, finance, home improvement, children, babies. It could be plants and trees. It could be, you know, astrological. You know, this is a platform where our community can really get involved and start bridging those gaps or those vacancies or those areas where, you know, we don't really, you know, we talk at one another, but we don't talk to one another. And so I'm just encouraging you guys that are listening to my voice. We just want to encourage you guys to be a part of this, to come down, to contact us. Again, you can contact me. I have my personal phone number. It's 810-394-4105. Email is mentorroberts@gmail.com. We're definitely looking forward to you guys contacting us and being part of this platform as we continue to build it and allow it to grow. I have a frat brother here today, with me today, a beautiful young man that I've been blessed to be a part of his life, to be in his presence. I've seen some work that he's done with me personally, and then I've watched him engage in some other areas, and I feel he's one of the pillars of our community. And even that, we cling or we celebrate or we, want to give homage to, these people with titles and all these kind of things. But there's so many people that are doing tremendous work that you never hear about them. And this is another act that we must do. We should not be waiting for you and I to die before we engage with one another. I should not be at your funeral talking about how wonderful you are and how much I'm going to miss you. Always remember, love is an action. When you really love someone, you're going to act on it. You're not going to just call them up. You're going to go see them. You're going to spend time with them. You're going to do some things with them. You're going to be a part of their existence. And again, we're only here for a short time. Our curtains, when you think about life, man, when you think about how quick it can be over with. And even, I'm talking about even with growing older, 100 or 2, 102 or 103, that's not that long, to be honest with you. So if you think about us dying from prostrate and a lot of different ailments, at 60, 70, and 80, what time do we really have and how important that time is? Children spell love T-I-M-E. So always remember that. The time that we put in with one another, the time that we share with one another, that's very meaningful. And we need to make every second count. Every second must count, So again, I just want to give a little background to this young man, a tremendous young man. I'm going to allow him to share a little bit about his history. Some of the parameters of our conversation today is going to be around solutions. So often we talk about problems. We whine about problems. Why are you not doing this? Why they not doing this? Why the mayor not doing this? Why? We got to get out of why and get involved in doing. My sister Satari, she said something to me months ago about making oneself available. We get so caught up in who we are. We move to the suburbs or we move to our different spaces. And we said, I'm not coming to Flint. I'm not going to do nothing with those people over there. They don't want anything. They living in poverty. They got a 47% illiteracy rate, 67% poverty rate. Homelessness is out of control. Education is just destroyed. And you think about, the structure, no community pools, no community centers. When you think about no skating rinks. I'm from Chicago, was raised on St. John, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. But in communities, man, you got to have everything in the community, from art, science, music, everything that you can imagine, for that child to grow up and feel that they have value. And so those little things, skateboard parks, You think about it, we got a park down the street over here you can't even use. Mac Brandon Park is ran by the county, you can't even use it. And that's intentional. Because they say we don't know how to act as black people. So we can't trust you at the park. When back in the day it was Forest Park, it used to be on and popping. But when you think about what's going on in our community, it's unacceptable. They spending over $1.5 billion downtown Flint, guys. 1.5 billion, not million. And the north side not getting a dime. So I'm saying all that to say that the system is real, the system is rigged, and we as a people, there's some things that he's going to share that has been done in the past and was successful. I mean boycotting. I mean where we took our dollars and said, no, we are not going to support your store, your liquor store. Not going to support your restaurant. Not going to go to your taco shop. Not going to eat your Chinese food. Not going to do it. And again, that's what we got to get back to. If we are not going to be in a museum one day as far as a black person, you know, you want to go, where do black people go? Well, we have again been, when you think about what they did with the First Nation people or our Native American brothers and sisters, you know, it was genocide. And that's what happened, you know. There's no more cotton to pick. I always like to say, we were more together when we were picking cotton than we are today. So again, with that saying, I'm bringing my brother, Mr. Gibbs. How you doing, Mr. Gibbs?
Doing good today, my brother.
I'm glad that you came and spent a little time with us. I had to give some background and kind of build the pie up a little bit because I've been gone a little bit. And so I was under the weather, dealing with some issues myself. And so I had to give some start the cake. You know, we were making a cake. So we had to, you know, start putting it in the oven, you know, as you put the ingredients in. But I just want to say thank you to you, your wife, your beautiful queen. I always want to acknowledge Miss Cheryl.
You always do.
She's a wonderful human being, you know, and I think those are some things that, you know, we really want to cover today as far as, you know, how are we behaving as human beings. So again, I want to thank you for coming, and then I would like to you to address our audience and tell us a little bit about who Mr. Gibbs is and where did you come from and why are you here on this planet called Earth.
Well, my name is Douglas Gibbs, and first thing first off is I'm a Flintstone, and I'm a true Flintstone. I was born in Flint, born, bred, and reared. I grew up on St. John, and to me, I was explaining to Brother Roberts earlier, that to me St. John was something special. St. John, he's a biblical character. But the St. John area was like a 2-mile stretch. To me, it was a village, and it was a village because everyone there knew each other. You knew your neighbors. You knew people blocks away. Just a quick overview of myself is that I was raised on St. John. Went to Fairview Elementary School, but really I started off down the street at Doyle.
Now, before you go there, you did mention that you were literally born in a house.
Yes.
I think we can't leave that out,
Yes.
brother. On St. John. That's powerful, man.
I was born in a house. On New Jersey Street, right? On St. John. So I am a product of Flint.
And when he says that, guys, you know, a lot of times people don't realize the significance of St. John, man, because it is about, when you think about, people talk about the Holy Land, and they talk about Israel and all these other places, right? But when you think about your birth and where you were originated from as far as coming here on the continent of North America, and you realize that you were born in all thousands of years, but you were born in a village, in a hamlet called St. John. And if we talk about the story of Jesus Christ and, you know, the manger and all that kind of stuff, you know, I'm envisioning, you know, right there on St. John, Douglas Gibbs was born in a home. You know what I mean? Yes. That right there is powerful. Because people don't realize the significance of communities and neighborhoods when they think about why is Flint looking like it looks today? Because, you know, even when I'm from Chicago, when I had the honor of growing up on St. John, I thought it was the best place on the planet. We couldn't believe the kind of opportunities and the life that we were living over there. It was almost like you said, a closed-in village, and we were protected. Go ahead.
When we had St. John, and I'll get on my education later, but growing up on St. John was a very special place, because growing up on St. John and that 2-mile stretch, we had everything we wanted. Now, you have to consider also is that at that time, I was born in 54, but at that time in the 50s and 60s, and some of the younger people may not understand it or believe it, Flint, Michigan was one of the most sought out places to live in the United States.
Really?
Yes, Flint, Michigan. And the reason that it was like that is because there was no such thing as General Motors at the time.
Really?
You had Buick, you had Chevrolet, you had Pontiac. And a lot of people are unaware of it is that because you had these individuals around Flint or in Flint, Mr. Mott and Mr. Durant, they had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
And because you had these individual car manufacturers here, that's why, Cadillac, all of those, right? General Motors came together because of people like Charles Stewart Mott and Durant.
Okay.
And they said, hey, you have Pontiac, you have Chevrolet, you
Yeah.
have Buick and all over here.
Okay.
Why don't you guys get together? But all of that was right here in Flint.
Wow.
Not Detroit.
Okay.
Flint. That's why Flint is known as the vehicle city. You hear people talk about Detroit as the motor city, but Flint is the vehicle city. Well, they decided that, hey, why don't you guys get together into one company? That's where General Motors came from.
Wow. Look at that.
So all of those, and AC Spark Plug, Champion, all that was right here in Flint.
Yeah. DuPont paint. Oh,
There you go.
my
Right.
man. Yeah.
So you had that type of money, if you look at it, you had that type of money all right here in Flint. So that's why Flint was one of the most sought out places to live in because of the economy. Right? But you have to think about it also. Certain areas, you had certain groups of people. And when I say St. John, that was a unique situation. On St. John, we had pharmacies, we had stores, we had clothing stores, bakeries, roller skating rink, right? We did have to come across a track to go to the movies, and that was Northtown Movies, right?
Yeah.
And that's Northtown Theater was right where Williams Medical area was, right
Okay.
there on the corner of Stewart and Stewart and Saginaw Street,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But everything else we had was contained right in that one area. And I don't care what you needed, you really didn't need to go off of St. John to
Look
get
at
to
that.
it.
Look at that.
And this is the type of community that we've had. Unfortunately, and I'm trying not to get bounce around too much here, but there was a concerted effort to divide that community
Okay.
because we were self-sufficient.
Yes, sir.
Right? We had 2 elementary schools. Okay, 2 elementary schools.
So that
We
was
had
Roosevelt.
Fairview and Roosevelt. Right.
That was the anchors.
The anchors.
And then you had the St. John Center in the middle.
In the middle.
Come on now.
Right.
Come on now.
And as I say, I grew up right there. Right off of St. John, I stayed in several homes on St. John area. But the schools and everything was right there.
Now, when you
We
say
had
that,
churches.
about those buildings and those being anchors, do you remember a lot of the other different ethnic groups, like from Hungary, Polish, and all those different people over there?
There were few, but we had some.
Okay.
Of other communities there and with us also.
And they were living in harmony.
Living in harmony. Now, this is the catcher here.
Okay.
Once you got out of elementary school, when you went to junior high school, you had the Flint River. right?
Okay.
And the only junior high school we could go to was Lowell,
Oh, my man.
which was 80 to 90% white.
Okay.
There was no such thing as school buses.
Oh, okay.
We had to walk from St. John area over to Franklin Street, where Lowell was located. So when I went to the 7th grade, I had to go to Lowell. But that was the time that they had started selling off of St. John. For some reason, they felt like they had to divide that community because we were all self-sufficient. And the excuse that they used was, we're putting the expressway through here. That's when 475 became. And if you notice, 475 runs down along the Flint River area, closer to Dordt Highway, which had nothing to do with St. John Street.
At all.
But they sold every single home in that area.
Wow.
So everyone that lived on St. John had to move to different parts of the city. And to me, that's what affected the village.
Yes, sir.
The village was destroyed. It was not destroyed by accident.
Now you think about, Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921 when they dropped the bomb on that
Exactly.
village. But then, like you just mentioned about St. John, when, even though it was not a bomb, but the expressway can be used as a metaphor for a bomb. Because then once you disperse the people, that's the unity.
That's the unity.
Wow.
So that caused a lot of the problem. And I think that's one of the problems that we run into in our lives today here in Flint.
Okay.
Is because we don't have that family unity, not family unity, but neighborhood or village type mentality.
Yes.
And I was explaining to Brother Roberts that, and I am gonna tell the story, Brother Roberts.
Okay.
I said I wasn't gonna mention it. We're talking about family and village unity. I was riding my bike. I was still, I must have been about the 4th, 5th grade at the time. And I was riding my bike on the curb in the street, which I should have been on the sidewalk. And as I went to wave at someone across the street, my bike pulled in front of this gentleman that was driving down the street. He had to slam on his brakes hard to keep from hitting me. And this is something that you never hear at this time in our lives, is that the gentleman got out of his car, pulled his belt off, whooped me in the middle of St. John, put me in the back seat of the car, said, I'm taking you home and telling your parents. And that was a time, fortunately, especially in the St. John area, you didn't worry about kidnapping and someone taking your kid and so forth. So he takes me home, my mom's sitting on the front porch. He tells her exactly what happened. She directly goes into the backyard. She gets a switch. She whoops. My father, we were all still together at the time.
Yeah.
And my father, she told him, and he just, when he walked from Buick, because Buick was right there on Michigan Avenue.
Okay.
That my father could actually walk to work.
Walk to work.
And that's one reason why St. John was developed also, because mostly everyone over on St. John, someone in the family worked for Buick. Okay, or worked for General Motors.
Okay.
So she told him what happened. He went upstairs and got his razor strap. He came down and he whooped me. And I felt that, I'm being a little bit punished here. I done got 3 whoopings for the same crime. But you can bet a dime to a dollar, Douglas didn't do that again.
Yes, sir.
And that was the whole mentality of that area. And if you had a telephone in your home, right, I could be 10 blocks from home. Someone sees me doing something wrong. By the time I got home, my parents knew about it.
Look at that.
And this was long before cell phones. Okay? So, but it was just that identity. And now you have an idea of the nucleus initially that I grew up in.
And so when you say, and when you talk about the nucleus, and then you kind of refer to, what's going on today, and couple that with, a lot of times you have people say, well, that was back in the day. And what do that have to do with today? Since that was back in the day, but you said that through that correction that you experienced from the gentleman, your mom and your dad, did it kick into you then the value of love, was that an act of love at the time? But as you have grown older, you have re-examined that event, because for you to bring it up, it had to be very significant. So that's why you brought it up. And I think it's important when we think about today, because as you just said, when we have communities that are destroyed or have been fragmentized, along with families, you know, where we used to have a time when we had family reunions. Family reunions was a must. It wasn't no maybe. I mean, even when you think, and that's why I think it's critical when we talk about this, how vital the church is.
Yes.
You know, you can say what you want to say about man-made religion, but one thing that the church really provided, man, was always had looked at the church as like the St. John Center, because I remember growing up in Reverend Allen, there was a Shiloh right there on Massachusetts and St. John.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand when I was going to Roosevelt, and when my dad got laid off from the V8 engine plant, you know, these people would come to our house and bring us food, and then we didn't have no money for the coal because we had a coal furnace. But Reverend Allen in the church provided coal.
Mm-hmm. And see, we didn't have consumers pumping gas into the homes at that time. You had coal, and you had coal delivered, and you had to put these chunks of coal into the furnace in order to have heat. And then, you know, in the morning, you had to get up earlier in the winter time.
Come on.
And make sure that there was coal in the furnace, so the house would be warm when it was time to get up and get dressed to go to school or anywhere else. But the church was very significant.
Very significant.
Church was a middle part or focal part of your life.
Yes.
And I think one of the problems that we have nowadays is that we have several generations that have not experienced church the way that we did as children. Church was a molding process, and it was an instructional process, but it was a place of unity, right? But we don't have that nowadays, and it's a shame that a lot of times that the younger people, some of the older people,
yes,
they generally go to church maybe on 3 occasions. And the reason why I say 3 occasions is that they'll go to the church for a wedding, they're going into the church for a funeral,
okay,
and they might go on Mother's Day.
They might Mother's Day, okay.
Wasn't about going to church on Father's Day though, but Mother's Day was very significant. So the church was a very important part. Another thing is the education.
Yes.
Education is very, very important.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is that I had 6 older brothers.
Okay,
Right.
wow.
3 of them were out of the house by the time I was growing up.
Oh,
Right?
really?
But
Okay.
there were still 3, and my mother and my father, they split up when I was 8 years old in the 3rd grade.
Really?
Right? So my mother was left to raise 4 boys by herself.
Now, did you have any contact with your dad after you left?
I had a lot of contact. I had a lot of contact because I spent, I would say, a lot of my earlier childhood with my grandmother, which was my father's mother. And now, speaking of African heritage, and I'll tell you about my education after a while, but dealing with the African heritage is that I grew up in a family that I'm fortunate enough that I can trace my family heritage back to Ethiopia.
Really? Wow.
And the reason why that happened was that on my father's side of the family, through my grandmother, I had to spend every summer as a child in Alexandria, Louisiana.
Alexandria, Louisiana. Ooh, now when you think about Louisiana, where is that really located? So the audience and all of us can, because most people just think of New Orleans, Mardi Gras. So where is that really located? Is that in the middle of Louisiana?
Alexandria is really located like in between Shreveport and Monroe. So it's before you get down to Baton Rouge and New Orleans and all.
So would you say that that's like
it's more central?
Okay, the heart of Louisiana.
It's the heart of Louisiana.
Whoa.
It's more central Louisiana. And my wife, it's kind of hilarious that my wife and I've been with her, Cheryl, really for 48 years.
48, can y'all, audience, y'all hear that? 48 strong.
48 years, okay?
Holla,
And we're still together.
we don't wanna be with each other 2 minutes. Holla.
But that had a lot to do with my older understanding and education. But to narrow it down is that I had to go to Alexandria, Louisiana because it was an African custom.
Really?
What they would
That's
do
right.
is pick a younger child out of the family,
Okay,
and they would teach that child family history verbally. And I would have to go down and stay there anywhere from 2 weeks to a month,
really?
every summer.
Like being trained like a griot.
There you go.
Wow,
Okay.
are you serious?
And sometimes,
Look at
sometimes my father would take us down there also.
Okay.
And,
Wow.
but my grandmother, she would make sure I did that because sometimes we would have to ride the Greyhound bus, just my grandmother and myself. So I grew up at a time period and people couldn't understand that, but some of the older people understand it,
Okay.
that I saw signs once we got in the South,
Yeah.
whites only,
Yeah.
colored only,
Yeah.
water fountains, restrooms. My grandmother, if we took the bus down, she would not let me go into the bathroom
Yeah.
because the black restrooms there was just destroyed, right?
Really?
Not kept at all. Sometimes she would
Mm.
stand at the corner of the building and tell me to go around the corner of the back of the building and use the bathroom while she stood there and watched.
Yeah.
So I grew up at a very racially divided portion of this country.
Yeah.
But in my family, and a lot of people, it shocked them and it shocked you when I say it, is that between my mother and my father and my brothers, I was the first one in my family to graduate from high school,
Really?
much less go to college. Okay, I went from Northwestern to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I was recruited there for track. I was University of Michigan's first 7-foot high jumper on the track team.
Okay.
And thank God that I was blessed enough that I was inducted into the Greater Flint Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, congratulations.
So, thank you.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
man.
But my father, he was recruited by Grambling when he was in the 11th grade.
Really?
But my father didn't graduate because he did not go back his senior year because he joined to serve in the Korean Army. Because he wanted to take care of his mother.
Yeah.
This was down in Alexandria, Louisiana.
Okay.
And I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but at that time is that, okay, once you grow up, Doug,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to pick a younger kid.
Okay. To carry on the tradition.
Right. But so much of our family history had been involved, there was no way that I can do that. And a cousin of mine,
Mm-hmm.
right, Lee Lattimore, he got involved in formulating a lot of the family history.
Okay.
So now, not only do we are aware of our family history, we actually have a book with our family members in it, right? Some of it shows marriage certificates, some of it shows death certificates, and even cemeteries.
Wow.
Where the bodies are buried at
Are
in the
you
cemetery.
serious?
So if you wanted to go see it, you can go there. And as I said,
Wow, that's awesome.
and as I said, I can trace my heritage back to Africa.
Yeah.
And when I can trace it back to Africa, it gives me an idea of who I am and what I am.
Okay then.
And I was always taught that you are not inferior to
Okay.
anyone,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that you're better than anyone either.
Okay. Okay. Excellent.
So
Excellent.
don't look down on your nose saying that, hey, about this person and that person, because except for the grace of God, that could be me.
Now, when you said that you were the first, and then you mentioned about, going to Louisiana, being chosen to be a griot, because that's a level of connection to our ancestors and also spiritually, making sure that we pass on those healthy traditions. And then you said your dad, because he wanted to take care of his mom, he forego his 12th year of schooling. And then you said you were a 7-foot high jump champ. And so what, because I'm asking this question to him, because when we look at, we're frustrated about our children today. And why is history important? Because one thing I'm an advocate of, and most people that are learning to any degree, when you look at patterns, human beings work in patterns. Our lives are patterns. When you think about it in the Matrix, that's why it's such a wonderful film about, human behavior, go take the blue or the red pill. And so when we think about systems and being culturally conditioned to believe certain things about ourselves, I love what you said about being in an environment and being in a family, man, and understanding, your connection to Ethiopian, man, and how, I just want to know, how was it that you, were guided and grounded in going to school and getting a good education, and when you didn't have really that support? You say your brothers and them didn't go. I'm just saying, how did that work? Because why I'm asking that is because we're dealing with that today. We're dealing with our children don't want to go to school. They say it's not relevant.
Well, the way that kind of started off is that my mother, God bless her soul.
Okay.
My
What was
mother,
her name?
Marty Barber.
So we can honor her.
Marty
Again, when you
Barber
speak the
is amazing.
name, he's speaking her name, so that means she still exists in our spirits.
She exists. But my mother only had a 3rd grade education. She only had a 3rd grade education because she grew up in Mississippi. Right? So, Louisville, Mississippi. And that was at a time that her mother passed when she was very young. So she had sisters also. She was the middle sister. But because she was able to cook very well, the other sisters and her father was expected to go out into the fields and the farm and take care of that. And it was her job to make sure that the household was taken care of.
Okay.
Now, can you imagine that? And we're talking about, 8 years old maybe?
Maybe.
That you're taken out of school.
Yeah.
You can't go back to school. So it was because of my mother.
Wow.
My mother's lack of education.
Okay.
And she was more intelligent to me than a lot of these educated people.
Okay.
But my mother always said, she looked at my brothers before me.
Okay.
And she always told me, she says, you're my last hope. You are my last hope. And when I graduated from high school, I wanted to go and join the Marines. I come from a military family. My father, grandfather, cousins, uncles, all military people, a lot of them.
Okay.
So, hey, and I wanted to go into the Marines.
Yeah.
Right. My mother told me over my dead body, she says, you're not going into the military. She says, you're going to college.
Thank you.
You are going to college because you are my last hope. And she says, because every one of us that has gone into the military were able to come back home. Now, a couple got wounded and so forth.
Okay.
And my father's brother, he was in the Marines. And that's one reason why I wanted to join the Marines. And he came out of the Marines with a Purple Heart and a Silver Star. Right, so, and he did some heroic things in order to get that Silver Star.
Now, when you mentioned that, Purple Heart and Silver Star, for the audience, what does that really mean? What is a Purple Heart?
Purple Heart means that you've gotten injured in combat. That's how you get a Purple Heart when you're in the military. Whatever happens, you've gotten injured, you've gotten wounded. That's how you get your Purple Heart. But to get that Silver Star, you hear a lot of people have Bronze Stars coming up. You get that Silver Star, you've done something spectacular.
Really?
In order to get a Silver Star. The only thing above that is a Gold Star. And a Gold Star means that that person has been killed in combat.
Oh. So I remember Gold Star families. Okay, that's what they're
Right, that's what it means. It means is that their son or daughter
paid the ultimate sacrifice.
the ultimate sacrifice, so that's why they get the Gold Star. But the
Okay.
second to that is the Silver Star, so that means you put your life on the line for others.
My man.
And back to the education part, my mother said, no, you're going to college, you're
Yeah.
going to college. So going to college, I didn't have any example in front of me
Right.
to know what to do,
Right.
how to do, when to do it. Fortunately, growing up, I was labeled as a gifted child. I had a very high IQ,
Okay.
even in elementary school.
Okay.
Right, so, and I had to take special classes after school for gifted children.
Really?
Okay, so I was in a special program,
So even on St. John you were?
even on St. John.
Really?
This is how developed St. John was
Ain't that awesome?
in our school system. Fairview and
Roosevelt?
Roosevelt were the only two elementary schools in Flint that had a boxing ring in the basement. If you wanted to box. You know, we've always had the best athletes over there in St. John,
Right.
right? Because those were the two nucleus schools there,
Yeah.
right? So, and
Ah.
a coach of mine, he's passed now.
Uh-huh.
Any player that was basically known coming out of Flint played for Coach Ribner. I played for Coach Ribner.
Okay.
Okay, and since we're on this background history thing there,
Yeah.
because I don't even know if we have enough time to go into detail about my life growing up there, is that with my education, I went to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor,
Okay.
and I wanted to go into IT, computing, because I was self-taught.
Really?
I taught myself how to write computer programs.
Are you serious?
And I mean, when you push this button, computer, I want you to do that. When you push this button, I want you to do that. When you push this button, I want you to do this. And I got in a little bit of trouble up in Ann Arbor because of that, because of my involvement with computers. But as a computer programmer, is that you have to learn what the results are when you ask it to do certain
Oh,
activities.
really? Oh, man.
So, but going to Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and being in the computer programming, I couldn't get into that field because my track coach told me that that would be too difficult for me to be running track. I didn't know any better
Yeah.
because I'm the first one,
Yeah.
right? That it would be too difficult to run track and working in computering educationally.
Really?
And I didn't realize it until after my freshman year
Mhm.
going in there, that here go these white guys on the team,
Yeah.
and they in pre-law,
Yeah.
they're in pre-med, but it's not too difficult for them.
Look
Right.
at that, my man.
And he actually told me, my track coach told me, that because I was from Flint, that they felt that I was not educated enough to be able to compete
Mm.
academically and
Mm.
athletically,
Look at that.
right? Because I was from Flint.
Look at that.
And evidently, he did not look at my ATC scores,
Yeah.
or my SATs.
Right, right.
And on my SAT scores for college entrance exam,
Okay.
I scored in the top 25% in the nation in math and natural science
Look at that, brother.
from Flint.
Top 25%.
Top 25% in
Oh,
the
that's
nation.
saying something.
I got thrown out of my
That's saying something.
calculus class
Yeah.
at Northwestern because I was developing and writing my own calculus formulas.
Are you serious?
Yes, yes, for problems.
Oh, look at
I had a problem with one of my instructors and he threw me out of the
Wow.
class because he downgraded me on my exam. And I told him he was wrong because I had the correct answers.
Look at that.
And he said, no. So I said, I'll tell you what, put the problem on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you work it out like it is in the textbook.
Yep.
I'll use my formula and see what we get. So he says, write it down. He wrote it on the board. He says, turn your chair around.
Yeah.
I turned my chair around, right? So he says, okay, you finished, turn your chair back around. The answer he had on the board was the same answer I had on my paper, using my formula.
Look at that.
So at a very early age, I was able to write calculus formulas that was rivaling the formulas in the textbook.
Okay.
And so,
Man, look at you.
as I said, I was a gifted child, you know, and I was just a little bit less than genius. I wasn't quite a genius, but I was very high on the IQ level.
Okay.
So my mother and others, they saw that in me as a young child. So I was pushed somewhat in that direction, especially by my mother. Now, I went on to the University of Michigan, and I received a degree in kinesiology, undergraduate degree.
We don't know what that is, Mr. Gibbs.
That's dealing with the human body.
Okay.
Dealing with movement.
Pronounce that word again. Come on, audience.
Kinesiology. Okay, kinesiology.
Kinesiology.
Yes.
Wow.
That's dealing with anyone that's in physical therapy had to take kinesiology classes.
Okay.
Okay, and I have a teaching certificate from K through 12, and dealing in kinesiology also is that after my master's program and so forth, I ended up being a adjunct professor in kinesiology at Eastern Michigan University.
Wow.
And at that same time, I was also an adjunct lecturer at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, in kinesiology.
So what does adjunct mean?
Adjunct means that you're not tenured.
Do you get paid for that?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yeah, but it means that you're not tenured means that you come in and technically you're not on the staff, but you're on the staff. Tenured means that you're there.
Yeah.
This is you, right?
No,
As
so
an adjunct, I will come in and
You
do
like-
portions of it.
okay, so adjunct is like a free agent. You come in and
Yes, basically like a free agent,
Okay.
right, or an assistant per se.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and I would say more like a free agent as opposed to an assistant.
Now, when you do the adjunct part, do that build your resume up to write books, or how do you use
Yes.
that to go up the ladder?
You can, as an adjunct professor, you are a professor.
Okay, oh, you are, okay.
You're a professor.
You just don't have tenure.
There you go.
So tenure means comes with, health insurance, all the benefits, stock options,
There you go.
parking space, a condo, tickets to the football game.
Well, I got tickets to the football game anyway because
Oh.
I actually worked for the rec department also. At that time,
Oh,
I was
man.
I was the assistant director of intramural and recreational sports at the University of Michigan.
Wow.
So because that was
Well, say that again, you was a what now?
I was the assistant director of intramural and recreational sports at the University of Michigan.
Wow. And your budget was what?
A couple of million there.
Okay.
But dealing with that, I was basically over what you call sport club or club sport teams. And these are teams like, at that time, soccer, fencing,
Oh,
other
really?
sports, water polo, things of that nature that were not varsity sports. But when they were picking up the varsity teams, it would come from your sport clubs.
Really?
So I was over teams or athletic programs before they became a varsity team. So that's what they got their varsity.
Now, what did you learn in that position? What benefits did you learn and you have used in your life from that experience? Because that's unique. I've never met a black person that had that responsibility for.
Well, to go back, I have to back up a little bit, Brother Roberts, is that I told you about, my track coach was telling me that he didn't think I was able to compete
Yes, sir.
that way. As a matter of fact, this is something that, is gonna really shock people, is that I was recruited for a 4-year scholarship at the University of Michigan. When I got there as a freshman, I was told that we don't know if you can compete here at the University of Michigan academically. So I was told that you're gonna have to get someone to pay for your freshman year, because we don't wanna give you a full scholarship and then you flunk out after 1 year.
Wow.
I've never heard of that before, but
Wow.
I didn't know. I was a new kid on the block, first one in my family to go to college. So because I wanted to go into computering and I wasn't able to do that, I fell back on education. So,
Wow.
what I did was that I always had an interest in psychology,
Okay.
and I always had an interest, in education also,
Okay.
right? So, what I did was that I got my degree in kinesiology education, but also that was one of my majors. I double majored and I double minored.
Okay,
My other major was psychology,
okay, my man.
and I had a double minor. My minor at that time was sociology and Afro-American studies.
Okay,
So I had a double major, double minor, go get my degrees, and when I came out with my master's program, now mind you, they always said that they didn't think I was able to compete.
right.
I came out of my master's program with a GPA or grade point average of 3.85 GPA.
Look at you, congratulations.
Okay,
Man.
3.85, and what's gonna shock you even more is that when I was in elementary school, I was in a breakfast program because my mother had to work. As I told you, after about the third grade, she had to work to take care of 4 boys. Well, most of the time in the morning, she was at work. So I would have to go to school early before regular school, and I was enrolled in this, it's really like an etiquette food program that you go in and they teach you not only about cooking, but placement settings of forks, knives, plates and everything from Miss Broadway, God bless her soul.
Okay then.
Right? So it was this etiquette class, but there was this old guy, to me at that time, once a month he would come and sit and eat breakfast with us. Okay, he'd sit and eat breakfast with us. Come to find out, this old man was Charles Stewart Mott.
Square business?
He was paying for the breakfast programs, and he would go and sit down and talk with the kids. Once a month, he's at this school, then next one, he may be at Roosevelt or schools all across the city, but once a month, I was sitting down and talking to Charles Stewart Mott like I'm talking to you now. But I had no idea who this guy was.
Yeah.
So when the university told me that my coach, not the university,
Yeah.
said that you're gonna have to get someone to pay for your freshman year, my mother told me, we're gonna see Mr. Mott. Oh, how do you know about Mr. Mott? She literally took me by the hand. We went to Mr. Mott's office and sat down and talked with him. And he remembered me.
Really?
And I'm like, he remembered me. Charles Stewart Mott paid for my freshman year admission.
Look at that. Look at that. Y'all hear that, audience?
Charles Stewart Mott paid for my freshman year room and board at the
Look
University
at
of
that.
Michigan. And then in the meantime is that, you see, I can't cover everything, Brother Roberts, because there's so much entail with the city of Flint being involved with me in my education. And after that, I ended up quitting the team my sophomore year
Okay.
because I did not like that coach.
Okay, okay.
The coach wasn't treating me right. And as a freshman, that was the first year that freshmen were allowed to compete on the varsity team.
Okay.
As a freshman, I placed in the Big Ten, indoors and outdoors as a freshman.
Really? And what discipline?
High jumping.
High jump, okay.
High jumping. That was my thing, high jumping, right?
So you was doing what style? Fosbury flop?
Fosbury flop. Now, I come back from my sophomore year, and I had to get my shoes as a freshman out of a box in the corner, my practice running shoes. I thought that was part of the program. I didn't know. But come back my sophomore year, I'm noticing that the white guys on the team, they're running around in brand new running shoes. They basically haven't even had a week of practice, much less competing in the meet. Right? And they were having new equipment. Once I confronted the coach about that, the coach told me, I'm complaining about my shoes, I had duct tape on my shoes and so forth. Now mind you, I'm a metal placer.
Yeah.
As a freshman.
As a freshman.
And he asked me, I said, look, I need some new shoes. I'm looking at all these other guys with new shoes and so forth. The coach actually asked me, what do you want me to do, hold your hand?
Oh, whoa.
I can't repeat on the mic my response to him
Whoa.
at the time. And I walked out the door,
Yeah,
quit the track team.
I don't blame you.
During that time, I had to end up getting financial aid. There was a lot of influential people in order for me to get where I accomplished.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Ivan Parker was the director of financial aid there.
Okay.
I told him what was going on. He took me under his wing. And this was at the time that I had quit the team.
Okay.
He says, I tell you what, Doug. He says, I'm going to pay for your room and board.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, at the beginning of every term, you get $1,000 in hand, go up to the cashier's office.
Whoa.
So that's how I initially got the rest of my education. And he said, you just have to make me one promise. I said, what's that? He said that you'll never accept a scholarship from them. He said, don't worry about it, I'll take care of you.
Really?
And he would even come and sit at my practices at time.
I
And I go to walk over to him and he'd just shake his head like, no, don't come over.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to come and talk to me. I just came down to see you. See what you were doing. And that's how my rest of my undergraduate degree was paid for.
Really?
Right? But then, and then my employment there is that after I was working for them, University of Michigan, I left the University of Michigan because I always wanted to come back to Flint, give back to Flint. I always wanted to be over parks and recreation here in the city of Flint. So I was building up my work experience geared toward that. So after leaving Michigan as the assistant director of intramural and recreational sports, I became the superintendent of recreation for Washtenaw County. I left Washtenaw County and was employed by the state of Michigan. Okay, I was the district supervisor for the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, over their state parks, campgrounds, fishing area. My area was southeast Michigan. My territory was from US 23 over to the Detroit River, including the state fairgrounds.
Wow.
And from Auburn Hills to the Ohio border.
Really?
So I was responsible for anything that had to do with DNR in Southeast Michigan, Department of Natural Resources. I left that position and accepted the position in the city of Flint. Okay, I was the interim director of parks, recreation, forestry, and golf courses, which didn't last too long because Don Williamson and I did not get along.
Okay.
So,
when
but
you,
that's a different story.
yeah, when you mentioned that, because we're going to close out, so I just want to recap, and for our audience, again, you know, it was wonderful that you did tie in, as we was talking earlier about solutions and then about the community and how, you know, your educational background and then how people reached out to you. And again, so often a lot of people say, I don't need anyone. And you really laid out how those people showed up in your life. And then you were in a position where you were able to receive it and move forward. I'm going to give you a minute to close out. Anything you want to say to our community as we get ready to close out?
Before we close out, one important point there also, with my teaching degree, because of the area that I grew up with here in Flint, is that I did my student teaching at Whitmore Lake Boys Training School, right? And that's why I tell you I love mentoring. I love working with the younger kids because I did not have that close hand on, even though I had individuals that was very influential in my life.
Okay.
And people ask me, why would you go to Whitmore Lake, or Green Oaks as it was named at that time? And the kids in my class ranged from 11 to 18 years old. And would you believe 6 out of every 10 kids in my class had murdered someone?
Mm.
They're like, well, why would you go into a situation like that? I said, coming from Flint area and some of the people that I grew up with, I said, if I can't reach them, who can?
My man.
And no, I wasn't afraid to go around because I grew up around some scrupulous individuals. But education and community involvement and mentoring and hands-on is what we need today. We need more of that here in Flint. We need to get involved as people, as a village again. We need to get that village mentality citywide.
Mm-hmm.
And not just, some people don't even know the person that live across the street from them.
That's
They
right.
don't tell them their name.
That's right.
But Flint has been good to me,
That's right.
and I love Flint. as I say, I am a true Flintstone.
Well, on that note, we definitely want to thank Mr. Gibbs for coming in and sharing a little bit about, you know, his story and his life. And again, we do this to help to inspire, to spark the mind, and to engage our community. That we all can do something. Again, I'd like to close out and thank again, this is Black Lives Matter Flint. Community conversation. I'd like to wish you guys an exciting day today. The rest of the week, I ask you guys to do something that is amazing.
The block party.
Today we having a block party today from 4 to 8, right?
Yep, at Dado's.
At Dado's store, a beer and wine store right down here on Saginaw Street, off of Hamilton Street.
5th Ward.
5th Ward. We ask that you guys come out and support this community block party. What we're trying to do in the community is bring our community together to where he just said about knowing each other, not fearing each other, loving each other, having fun. That's the day from 4 to 8. Everything is free. Please come, say hello, have fun, love each other. Thank you. This brother